radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, free from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Wait. Is it on? Okay. Great, thank you. Peter, do we have a spare microphone? Would it sound? Is that possible? Yeah? I'm happy to use this one. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Okay, very good. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Are you all keeping well? Anyone not well? But don't say. We don't want to know if you're not well. We only want to hear good news. So I have brought assistant teacher today, Ajahn Brahm. Do you all know him already? Everyone knows him. Anyone does not know him?
No, I don't think
you don't know him. Okay. So he is one of the kind of up-and-coming monks at Bodhinyana Monastery. He has been to BF in Singapore
a few times.
A few times already. Yeah. And he is a fellow Nordic. I'm Norwegian, he's Finnish, and that's why we fight like dogs and cats, or we are really good friends. Yeah, we happen to be really good friends, so it's kind of nice.
We haven't fought yet, but
coming soon. Anyway, just introducing Ajahn Brahm, and I thought it's nice sometimes to bring in another monk. So I thought it would be good to have kind of one of my colleagues in the monastic life or friends in the monastic life to come along. So that's why he's here today. So.
All right.
Started? Yeah. Let's just
sure?
Get started here. So I just have to get my eyes out. And we can see here.
Do we need to speak Singlish today?
Speak Singlish?
Singlish.
That's beyond me.
So. Okay.
Okay. So let's see what we've got. So if I can't answer, I will pass it on to Ajahn Brahm and vice versa. So we'll see how things go. So dear Ajahn Brahmali, wow, you even got the kind of the timing right. Now I'm coming today. That's good. Beings are the owners of the Kamma, heirs of the Kamma, Kamma as their origin, Kamma as their property, Kamma as their resort. Can Ajahn please explain the difference, if any, of the Buddha's usage of the different words underlined to describe Kamma, deeds inherited? Thank you. Yeah. So basically, these are like different ways of reflecting on what is roughly the same idea. So, the idea is just to understand that whoever you are now is to a large part a result of your Kamma, not entirely the result of your Kamma. There are other things in life as well. There's also like habits and that sort of thing. Habits is not the same as Kamma, but a large part of it is Kamma, and especially the amount of happiness and suffering you have in your life comes basically from the accumulated Kamma of the past. The first one here, the idea that you are the owner of your Kamma, I think is very interesting, because this is the first thing that people forget in the world. You think you are the owner of your house, you think you are the owner of your car, you think you are the owner of your meditation seat. Yeah, this is my meditation seat. Keep your hands away. Yeah, this is mine. I'm sitting over here. We actually really feel like we are the owner of these things. And all of the things that we think we are the owner of, we are not the owner of. And then those things that we are the owner of, which is Kamma, we don't look after properly. Yeah, if someone said, I want to take your meditation seat, or I want to steal your car, yeah, instead of getting angry and making bad karma, you say, please take the blooming car, yeah, it's okay, I give it to you. And then you have generosity and you make good karma at the same time. So this is just an extreme example, right? But it gives you this feeling that we look after the wrong things in this world. We look after those things that are not really that we're not really owners of, and we don't look after those things that actually are going to be with us for a long time into the future. And so we get things really the wrong way around. And when you understand what really matters and what really you bring with you into the future, you re-evaluate your life in a very large way. Instead of becoming one of these kind of silly materialists for whom material things are everything, things that you can't take with you into the future anyway, you start to look at life in a very different way. And so this is very much what kind of right view is about in the world. You're having the right outlook, understanding what really matters, understanding what is kind of for your own long-term benefit or not. So karma is what you own. All the other stuff is very comes and goes so fast. Before you know it, we're all dead anyway. Sometimes I kind of look at myself in the mirror and then I see a picture of myself from 30 years ago when I became a monk. I think, oh, what happened in those 30 years? It's kind of astonishing how fast it goes. And before you know it, you're kind of on the way into old age already very, very quickly. And so you have to kind of remember the incredible impermanence of things and how fast everything goes. So this is what you really own. You are the heir of your karma. Right now, you are inheriting the karma right now from your past lives. The reason you have the life that you have. And you all have a pretty good life. Is that right? Yeah, okay, you're all nodding, yeah, reasonably good, yeah. You're born in a kind of good society. Singapore is in many ways a really nice place to live. Australia is also pretty good. On top of that, you have kind of drawn some of the best lottery tickets by being also part of the Buddhist society here, being able to come to Jhana Grove. It's kind of a really nice system we have, where we kind of are, BSWA and the BF kind of working together like this. It's beautiful. Yeah, you can have a chance to come here. Sometimes we go there and we kind of work together and we build up something very powerful in this world. So I would say that all of us here, including, of course, the monastics, we have kind of drawn some of the best lottery tickets in the world. Yeah, $1 million is nothing compared to the lotteries that we have won. It's far more than that. So we are the heirs of something very positive. And then it is important that we don't just keep on eating the stale food. You know the story of the stale food? Yeah, this is the story of Visakha, and Visakha is known as Migara Mata. Migara was her father-in-law, and the story is that he was kind of really enjoying himself. He was a very wealthy man in ancient India, and he was eating all of this nice food and enjoying him with all the pleasures of the world. And then one day, his daughter-in-law, she was quite cheeky, like, you're just eating stale food. And he became upset because he was kind of proud of his wealth and proud of all the nice food that he was eating, like as if that really mattered. Yeah, but very proud. I said, "What do you mean I'm eating stale food? I'm eating this beautiful rice without any dark grains." That was kind of the height of luxury in those days. A rice without dark grains. That was kind of really good stuff. Yeah, because you had to be hand-picked out, right? It's a very expensive kind of rice, and maybe meats or whatever, what have you. And they said, "What do you mean?" And she said, well, you are using up all the good karma from the past, but without doing anything good. You're just a stingy old, I'm not going to say the next word, a stingy old something, yeah? not really not really building up anything good for the future. Yeah, what kind of person are you anyway? Build up the karma now. Don't eat stale food. Build up something fresh, something new for the future. Yeah, and this is so you can become the heir in the future of more good karma. And so we are the heir of the karma right now. The reason why you have this good life is because you did something good in the past. Make sure that you maximize that goodness now in this life. Not only will it ensure that you have a good rebirth in the future, yeah, you can come back to another nice Buddhist society, wherever that might be, but also you will be on the highway to awakening itself. The beautiful thing about karma and awakening is that the path forward is the same. So if you live well, you're both going to have a good future, and also you're going to be on the way to the kind of the highest happiness that the Buddhist path can provide for you. So slightly different idea of ownership and heirs, right? But basically the same kind of idea. Kamma is your origin. Kamma yoni, kamma sakka, kamma patis, the proper resort, yeah. Okay, so this is more like, we are born because of kamma. So if you want to stop being reborn altogether, which of course is the kind of the idea in the Dhamma, then you have to stop the origin of rebirth. And stopping the origin of rebirth is basically stopping craving, stopping attachment, stopping upadana, stopping all the kamma production. As long as you're still producing kamma, you will get reborn. You can't eliminate all kamma because the kamma we have from the past is too profound and too much. But what you can do is you can eliminate the production of more kamma, and that is where you stop getting reborn. So the production of kamma is your origin. That's why you're here. That drives the rebirth process and brings you on into new lives of uncertain quality in the future. So there you are. Kamma as your property. What kamma? Okay. So again, so kamma is like what you bring with you, very similar to being the heir. Property and heir, same kind of thing. Kamma as your resort. Pati sadhana. Pati sadhana is same thing, is similar to the idea of sadhana, something that pati sadhana. It's like a refuge in a sense, like a refuge or a resort. And the idea there is that if you're going to have a good life, something to lean on, something to rely on, something that you can use to kind of have a life which is meaningful and useful, make sure you have a good refuge. That is your refuge. That's what's going to enable you to then carry on living in a good way in the future. You're destroying your own future by living badly. Do you want to be bad towards yourself, or do you want to be kind towards yourself? You should be kind towards yourself. One of those beautiful little suttas that comes to mind now is the sutta in this is part of the Kosala Samyutta. So these are the suttas between the discussions between King Pasenadi of Kosala and the Buddha. And King Pasenadi, he goes to the Buddha and he says, I see all of these people, right? They are doing, some of them do bad things and some of them do good things. But it occurs to me, Venerable Sir, he says to the Buddha, it occurs to me that those who treat other people badly, they are their own enemy. And those who treat other people well, they are their own friend. And it's a beautiful way of thinking about it, because if you treat other people badly, if you do bad things in the world, you are going to reap the consequences of that. So it's like you are your own enemy if you treat other people bad. And it's a beautiful way of thinking about it, because that idea that, being kind actually to others, actually the person you are ultimately kind towards is yourself. And this is this beautiful idea of what spirituality is. Spirituality is any action or any speech, any thought that you have that is good both for yourself and for others. And if it has that quality, it's both good for yourself and for others, then it is a spiritual act. If it's just good for yourself, it's selfish. If it's just good for others, it is like, you're like a martyr, or kind of, not really looking after yourself. It should be good for both. That is the true spiritual act. And then you create this resort for yourself and this refuge for yourself in the future by living in that way. So that is the some ideas anyway around that. So would you like to add anything, Venerable? No? Enough? So so that took about 10 minutes, so we're going to be here till see what happens. So okay, your turn. Okay. You pick one. Yeah. Not really.
Okay.
One of the higher fetters is restlessness. Is that the same as restlessness and remorse in the 5 hindrances? The anagami can enter in the 5 hindrances, since the anagami can enter jhanas at will. Is that? I don't actually know. That's Kushuk. See, he's going to Ajahn Brahm.
Uddhacha, same word.
Oh, it is the same word. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since Anagami can enter jhanas at will, the interesting thing about with the restlessness and the remorse is it is with the jhanas that anybody really who starts getting into the jhanas, I mean, sure, once you start getting into the your hindrances are really not just restrained, like what happens to ordinary meditators, most of us, that we really restrain the hindrances and then you can enter jhanas. But when you start getting into the further enlightenment, the inspiration really draws them in, so that all of these like things like restlessness and remorse, it doesn't affect them. They have more equanimity starts coming into their life. But even for any meditator, when you start getting into the deeper meditations, i.e. jhanas, or even before that, that memory pulls you in. So even for you, if you're not Anagami yet, I don't know how many of you are here, but that deep meditation, you just have a memory of it, and that inspiration actually pulls you in, back into the meditation. So it's not just that you have to be sort of somewhere really high, up into the ladders of somewhere like enlightened being. So it's very important that you appreciate, you value your meditation experiences, you reflect on it and enjoy them, and then make more of it, and that actually that memory pulls you back into it. And the deeper you go, the more it always pulls you more in. That's it.
Great, thank you. So let us move on. Yes. Yeah. Okay, dear Ajahn, Ajahn Brahm asked us to ask you. Ajahn Brahm is very naughty. I should have known that he would do something. But he was selling not tomatoes. I refuse to answer the question if you can't even get it. No. And your subsequent experience in the paddy wagon, if you haven't already, could you please advise? Okay, share. How best should we practice the Eightfold Path as laypersons towards to Nibbana, Vimashmetta? Okay, so Ajahn Brahm is out to embarrass me. So this is what goes on. So when I was a student, sometimes I was a bit naughty. I did naughty things. And one of these days, when I was a student, there was a political rally in the town where I was, and there was one of these kind of politicians. He was kind of fairly far right in Norway, and he wasn't very popular with the kind of more left-leaning people. And you have a political spectrum usually in the West, left to right. And so he came, and we knew that there would be lots of protesters coming to these political rallies. There would be those who cheered him on, and there would be the protesters. And so one of my friends said to me, "This is a good business opportunity, yeah? Those protesters, they will want to have eggs, so they can throw eggs on this politician, right?" So he said we should have a placard and we should sell eggs, $1 per egg, right? And they only cost 20 cents to buy or whatever. So then we make kind of 5 times the profit, yeah? So we go down with a large kind of tray of eggs and we go selling to all the protesters. And so I went down and had this placard saying eggs for sale. And before I even got started, the police kind of nabbed me. And saying, what do you think you're doing here? You're selling eggs to the protesters. What is this all about? So I explained to them I was just kind of a student. I was just kind of messing around and having a good time and enjoying myself. It wasn't really serious, anything like that. They said, "Oh yeah, don't do this again." And they kind of let me off. So that was really good fun though, because it's you're making fun of everyone in a sense by doing that. You're making fun of the protesters who kind of have to buy the eggs, right? And then the politicians and whatever. And then later on, the newspaper came because the newspaper thought it was a really great story here. So one of the kind of tabloid newspapers in Norway had a full page with a picture of me, a student sells eggs. But they thought it was good fun, yeah. So it was just kind of a funny thing. So don't follow the monks in everything they do. Yeah, be careful. Only follow me. I think in Singapore you might get into serious difficulty if you did that, but in Norway it was kind of fine. Yeah, you're just a student messing around. So that's the story. So this is one of the bad things I've got up to as a layperson. So A second part of the question, how should we best practice the Eightfold Path as layperson towards Nibbana? And what you should do is make sure that the foundations of the path are really, really solid. This is the most important thing here. One of the things that you find in the suttas, the Buddha describes, he talks about satipatthana. Satipatthana is all about meditation practice, mindfulness of breathing or whatever you do. And he always talks about the foundations of satipatthana. What is that makes it work? What is that you have to put into place for it to work? And the Buddha says two things have to be in place. And it kind of makes good sense if you understand how the Noble Eightfold Path works. Those two things are, no surprise, your sila, your morality, your kindness. The more effort you put into that, and if you put a lot of effort into it, especially your mind, have a lot of metta, have a lot of compassion in the world. It's very easy to get upset when you see the things that are happening in the world, or get upset with the people around you. Don't allow the world to rule your mind. You be in charge of your mind. Have a beautiful mind. Be kind to others. Understand we're all in this kind of big problem together. No one really knows what they're doing in this world. Everyone is fumbling around. Be kind all the time, if at all possible. And then allow that to come out in your actions and your speech. And that is where you're building up the foundations for meditation practice. If you have a mind that is full of kindness and compassion to everyone, you become peaceful very easily. So I recommend you even do metta meditation. How can you do metta meditation? Don't make it very complicated. Make it very, very simple. Sit down in whatever favorite chair or seat or whatever it is, and just say a mantra like, may all beings be happy, and keep on saying that, but allow it to come from your heart. Really mean, may all beings be happy. And as you do that, you're actually purifying yourself. And sometimes you will get some very beautiful reactions when you do that. Sometimes you feel this overpowering emotions because you really want all beings to be happy. It's a very powerful state of mind when you want that. And it's also a very beautiful state of mind. And you know that this is spiritual. You know that you're on the path of the Buddha when you have these kind of feelings. They are very powerful spiritual feelings. And so this is how you do. This is number one. The second important thing that you have to do is to have right view. Because right view gives rise to the right priorities. You know what is really important in life. And so you will do the right thing. And even in your meditation, the right priorities will be there. Instead of thinking about all kinds of things, your priority will be your breath or your metta meditation object or whatever it is. So having the right priorities gives you the right view, gives you the right values, gives you the right priorities, and it enables the path to work because you have these right qualities in your life. So those are the two most important things. So focus on those, and then come occasionally to Jhana Grove or come occasionally to some retreat somewhere and test yourself out and see if your mind really is coming together, if your mindfulness is getting stronger and your samadhi is coming together or whatever. So that is what I recommend. So Ajahn Brahm, your turn.
Love everybody even when you're throwing eggs at them.
That was,
Okay, so this is actually for Ajahn Brahmali, but I'll start. But the interesting thing that you pretty much answered this just now. Okay, the Ajahn Brahmali. As I start keep the 5 precepts, I find myself getting more aware of my failings. How do I keep the path a joyful one whilst trying to work on my defilements? And you pretty much answered that just to have that kind of loving kindness, have easiness towards yourself, towards the defilements, instead of fighting it, which is really sort of that regular reaction we all have. It's just like, I don't like these things, I don't want to see it. But we try to develop those kind of softness towards them. And Ajahn Brahmali just talked a long period of that anyways. But sometimes I like to even think about this way. we have this interesting thing called upekkha, which is very high happiness in Buddhism. Upekkha is something when Ajahn Brahmali talked about kamma. Upekkha is sort of like you look at your kammas have like equanimity, but sometimes people think equanimity is some kind of like very sort of like I don't feel anything. But equanimity is more like you look at these things, what your failings, or you're like this is my kamma. Instead of like getting attached to that, you just sort of look at it from the distance, and it's like don't get so caught up with those things. Have this kind of like happiness of being sort of like a distant to your failings or your kamma a little bit. It's just one thing. There's many things, but I think this kind of softness is a very important thing, and Ajahn Brahm just talked about it. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I just want to add something because I know this is a problem many people have. Yeah, you start keeping the precepts, you become much more aware of your shortcomings. But it doesn't mean that you actually are, a worse person. You're probably a better person than you were before. You're just more aware of what's going on. And so it's a positive sign that you become that awareness. That awareness is a sign that now you have the opportunity to change your attitude or your way of doing things. So be glad that you have that awareness. Understand that this is the path forward. Now you have a chance to make a change. And remember that you are a conditioned human being. These defilements that we have and these habits that we have are very deeply ingrained. It takes a long time to overcome them. And you are a victim of those habits. Don't think you are in charge. If you think you are in charge, you're going to blame yourself. You're not really in charge. If you understand that you are a victim of your habits, it means that you can have compassion for yourself. Just like Ajahn Mudita was saying, then you can be soft with yourself. Have compassion for yourself. If you understand yourself as a victim, you will have compassion. If you understand yourself as the one who is in charge, you should be better, you will blame yourself. So get this right. This is one of the most important ideas behind the non-self idea. Non-self means you're not really in charge. You're a product of your past, a product of your conditioning. Self-compassion is a very beautiful idea. If you can have self-compassion, you will feel a sense of care about yourself. Okay, I failed. It's okay, of course I failed. What do I expect? And then you fail again. Of course I failed again. And gradually, instead of blaming yourself, you start to unravel why it is that you're failing. If you blame yourself, you stop seeing clearly what is going on, because the blame will block your ability to have insight. The blame will kind of make your mind hard. It will make your mind lose the ability to see clearly what is going on. But if instead you observe yourself, like Ajahn Buddha saying, just using the upekkha, just observing and seeing, you will see the causality that lies behind your inability to keep your precepts or kind speech or whatever. Why do I keep saying that? What is going on? But maybe it's because I perceive the people in the wrong way. How can I perceive people with kindness? How can I understand that these people too are conditioned, that they are not really in charge of themselves? And then gradually you unravel this whole thing and you start to understand the causes that lie behind your failings as a person. Of course you're going to fail. What do you expect? I fail too many times. I'm not going to talk about it, but I failed too many times as well. And, I try. Ajahn Brahm, one of the kind of really, really beautiful things about someone like Ajahn Brahm is that, someone like that, I was saying, Ajahn, I did something, I need to confess this thing. And he says, it's nothing, it's all right, go back to your cutie and forget about it, there's no problem at all. It doesn't matter what you've done. Even if you murdered somebody, I'll say, no worries,
You just murdered once, so that'll be fine.
It's only one murder. Angulimala, he murdered 1,000 people, you only murdered one, so no worries. Ajahn Brahm is a bit like that, It's like, he will never blame you for anything, And so ask yourself, don't blame yourself, ask yourself, what would Ajahn Brahm say in this situation? Ajahn Brahm would say, very good, carry on, just do the right thing, That's what he would say, What would the Buddha say? Don't use your own habits. Ask someone wise what they would say. That is what is important, because you have to understand your own limitations. And so I'm always very happy when I go to Ajahn Brahm and he says, don't worry, just go back to your cutie and carry on. I say, okay, thank you. So I go back to my cutie. So
there's this idea of pull yourself up from the bootstraps, like from your it's just a crazy idea. There's like we just develop a lot more compassion towards yourself. Like Ajahn Brahm is saying, we fail, we all fail. Don't blame yourself how many times you fell, but how many times you got yourself up. That's what you should be thinking. Yes, we're gonna be here until midnight. But the question continues.
Yeah.
Also,
the more it's on the
it's just the first.
Okay.
Also, what advice would you give to a layperson in terms of sense restraint? So the Indriya Sangvara, it's actually interesting. We're going to have a workshop on it coming soon in our city center with Ajahn Brahm.
Yeah.
And we have a whole workshop on that sense restraint. And I'm teaching with Karunika, and I was actually editing email just half an hour ago on this topic.
Okay.
So it's interesting. Yeah. With the sense restraint, I like to think of it this way. This, again, we can keep talking about it. Sense restraint is something like you limit yourself a little bit, and it doesn't make it. You don't have to. Don't think about it in a way that you are sort of limiting yourself, like you're putting yourself into. It makes you more miserable. You have to think about sense restraint. That it's actually you have this kind of. Your mind is like something you don't have to think about. It's like you're taking things off your backpack and, something heavy. Don't put anything more in there. It's just sort of like lighter it becomes, easier it is to live in life. Instead of just somebody send you a bad text message and you straight away you replied, like you don't know anything and you're really bad things, like restrain. How much better you feel that you did not respond to that person. You feel actually lighter because you just restrained yourself. And it's the same with sense restraint. How much better you feel because you didn't indulge in certain things. There's no end to these cravings. We're going back into this kind of thing. But sense restraint has to come from wisdom. You just sort of, is this really bringing me happiness? If I have one piece of chocolate cake, it's nice. Second, well, it's still okay. Third, yeah, it's starting to be a bit too much. How much, like, some point you just sort of like, this is not bringing me happiness. Restrainment actually many times is like I said, restrain yourself with body, speech and mind. It's the same thing. You feel light. So it comes with wisdom. It has to come with wisdom, the sense restraint. Anything else? Good.
Yeah. We don't have time for anything else. No. Okay, let's move on. So next one. This is not the question. This is something else. What is faith? How can I have more faith? Good question.
That is a good question.
How can I have more faith? So faith is just this feeling. Faith is two things. The Pali word for faith here is saddha, and it is actually an important part of the Buddhist path. You have the 5 faculties, the panch indriya, and the first of those 5 faculties is sad indriya, the faculty of faith. And so this is a very important aspect in the Dhamma. And if you have strong faith, joy can arise very easily. If you have a sense that the Buddha really was enlightened, that the Buddha is your teacher, that he taught these beautiful suttas and teachings that we have, and you feel, wow, it's amazing. We have these amazing teachings that lead you out of suffering towards happiness. All you have to do is apply them in your life, and they are there. Is it true that there was a master in the world 2,500 years ago who was enlightened, who was awakened, who understood the human mind to the core? Is that really true? Wow, the Buddha, whoa, the Buddha. You feel that someone actually understood what it really means to be a human being beyond our understanding. He understood and he gave us this path on the plate saying, do this and you will be happy. There's something extraordinarily powerful about that. He gave us the greatest gift that one human being can give to another human being. Why should we not feel bliss or joy or happiness when we know that? He gives us the access to the highest happiness in the world. That's extraordinary. Most people get happy and joyful for stupid little things. They get happy because they got a promotion or I got a pay rise. Yay, pay rise. It's nothing. Who cares about the blooming pay rise? It's kind of a tiny bit of happiness. This is the highest happiness you can have. And so faith means you really start to gain confidence in that. And with that confidence, this is kind of where Buddhism is different from most other religions, is that the word saddha doesn't just mean faith, it also means confidence. It's kind of you understand what is going on, you get inspired by it, and that inspiration then gives rise to the emotional reaction, and that emotional reaction is more like the faith of other religions. But confidence and faith coming together is inspiration. When you feel inspired, you get an emotional reaction out of that. And then you bring that into your meditation. It gives rise to the joy, the gladness, and all of these positive feelings. Then when you watch your breath, it's far more powerful. So faith is incredibly useful. So how do you get that? Well, you get it by, there's many aspects of this. One of them is to kind of understand the Dhamma in the deep way. The more you understand the Dhamma, well, if you don't agree with it, then you don't agree with it, so fine. But if you really start to agree with it, then faith will arise. You see, the Buddha really said that? Wow, that's really smart, that's really wise. This Buddha really was a wise person. Yeah? Wow, did he say that as well? And you start to read the suttas and you see the consistency, the integrity in the suttas, how there is nothing in there really that is you can justify violence with, for example. Yeah, I mean, you can read many other religious texts and they can justify violence from all kinds of reasons, but not from the suttas. There's nothing there. The Buddha didn't say anything that there was a just war or just murder or anything like that. There was no such thing. So there's the integrity to the suttas. There's a beauty to them. It's all about happiness. There's a path that is laid out. You do this, you do this. It's sequential, beautifully explained. There is nothing like the spiritual teachings of the Buddha in the entire world. These teachings are really, really unique. And I am always surprised. Why isn't everyone a Buddhist? Yeah, I mean, obviously this is the best, right? This is like superior. I mean, it's certainly why this is kind of. I mean, yes, people of other faiths who live well, they are worthy of respect as well. But in my opinion, when you see the word of the Buddha, there's something outstanding about it, something really, really exceptional that really stands out. And this is kind of how you grow your faith, getting an appreciation of that. You grow your faith by starting to practice, by starting to seeing it having an effect. When you live with kindness, it does something to you. You grow in faith when you see other people who have practiced for a long time, and you see people who have, certain characteristics that are faith-inducing. That's also how you grow in faith. So it's all of these things kind of coming together, and gradually your sense of confidence and faith arises.
And then, so you hear the word of the Buddha, then you have gained faith, and then what happens? You ordain.
You ordain, that's the next one, okay. So,
isn't that the sequence?
Something like that, yeah.
How can I have more faith? Oh, the question continues. Oh, you didn't answer yet.
I think it's already answered.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then I can go here. Dear Ajahn, and smiley face. So it must be for me. Ajahn Brahm taught us metta meditation by choosing an object that can soften our hearts. What if we cannot think of such an object / being? Thank you. Metta. How can you not think of that subject? It's like, okay, if you cannot think an object, a person outside of you, what about yourself? Were you a small child at one point? Were you hurt at some point? Did you think that you deserved kindness when you were hurt as a small child? When you think of that, just think of yourself. I was insecure, I was hurt, this thing happened. What did you feel? Then you start having compassion towards yourself, metta towards yourself. I was hurt. I needed to be loved. Metta can start from you. You can be the object. And that actually, in the suttas, that is actually the sequence. So the metta starts from yourself.
Visuddhimagga.
Visuddhimagga, sorry, okay. That's why I'm the TA, not the teacher. Anyways, the sequence doesn't matter so much. But what matters is that you have to start developing it somehow. And honestly, it's difficult for many people to find, like, I don't really feel it. And then Ajahn Brahm goes to pains sometimes try to tell people, like, well, what about your house plant? Every time you're watering the house plant, it's like you can't think of kittens or dogs or grandmother or mother or something. It's just not coming up. What about the plant? You're giving a life to the plant. Every time you're watering at your house plant, you're giving it kindness. But sometimes I like to think about, I was hurt. There was somebody hurt me when I was a kid. I need to think of that person inside of me, how I felt. And from there, the metta starts growing. It's me, I'm the object. And you can do the same. Sure, you can find it. You just need to find the inspiration. That's it.
Good. Sadhu. Okay. Next one. All right. Is it appropriate to say the unconditioned or nibbana element is in this mind? It is the original mind, soul, self that we realize once we peel off the 5 aggregates. Yeah, not really. So the way that nibbana and the unconditioned is defined in the suttas, it is defined as the living experience of the arahant. Yeah, so nibbana is not a element that is kind of outside of existence. It is part of the living existence and experience of the arahant. So what is that nibbana? Well, the nibbana means like the extinguishment, and what you extinguish are the defilements of the mind. You also distinguish suffering, you extinguish greed, hate, and delusion. And that is asankata, that is unconditioned, in the sense that once it has been extinguished, it doesn't come back again. Usually when your defilements are gone, it's temporary, it's a conditioned absence of the defilements. But once you become an arahant, it's no longer conditioned, it is permanent. They are gone for good. That is the asankata. So it's important to understand how the Buddha talks about nibbana. He doesn't really talk about nibbana as a state beyond the death of the arahant or something like that. It is the living experience of the arahant, the ending of greed, hatred, and illusion. That's what it means. So what happens when the arahant dies? If an arahant and you die, what happens then? Well, what happens then is even more end of suffering. Yeah? There's a little bit of suffering left because you still have to live in the world. You still have the 5 senses and the irritation of the 5 senses. And so when the arahant dies, it's the complete end of suffering. Yeah? So people want to know, well, what is it? But that's kind of missing the point. The reason why you ask what is it is because you have a sense of self. And so you have a vested interest in that sense of self, and that's why you want to know what it is. But it should be enough to know it's the end of suffering. Yeah, that's kind of what really matters. And what it is kind of secondary. As long as suffering ends, that's what's important. And if you ask what it is, you are showing that you're still attached to the sense of self. And so you haven't really understood what's going on yet. Yeah, that's kind of what it means. Basically, that's what it means. And so the question, what remains, is actually a misguided question. That's what I'm trying to say here, because it misunderstands the nature of what is happening here. All right.
Quite a technical question. Okay, what are the best books / resources to learn Pali? Which suttas / texts do you recommend to a learner to start translating / study? I think these days, like, there's a lot of the books. What's the one? A.K. Waters.
I can answer.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know a bit more about. I've been Pali teacher for a long time, I think. Yeah. So, one of the books we have used a lot is one called Introduction to Pali by A.K. Waters. He is a British scholar, and he wrote a book which gives a kind of nice introduction. And there are lots of tools available online. So I taught Pali for many years at the monastery. Venerable Sunyo is now, who will be here tomorrow morning. He also taught Pali, has been teaching Pali recently. And so those courses that we have been teaching at Bodhinyana are actually available online. So you can just search for those, and then you can listen to our explanation of A.K. Waters. And there's also I remember I wrote the key to all the exercises in long time ago. That's also available online. And so you can get the key to the exercises in A.K. Warder's book. Otherwise, you don't know what the answers are. So all of that is available online. There's also, if you go to suttacentral.net, which is the website that is mostly run by Bhante Sujato, they have like groups that do Pali studies together. And there's an Australian man called John Kelly who has Pali courses going continuously pretty much. And you can also join those Pali courses if you're interested. So you can read a bit on your own, and you can kind of follow these courses online. And I probably recommend you to do both. So I learned Pali originally from Ajahn Brahm. Isn't that cool? He taught me Pali in the old days. And when I came to Bodhinyana Monastery in 1994, so that's kind of over 30 years ago, he taught Pali during the Rains Retreat. And so Ajahn Brahm taught me Pali, and I was the kind of the awkward student sitting there asking awkward questions from the beginning. But that was kind of nice. And Ajahn Brahm, he was self-taught. Ajahn Brahm just took the A.K. Warder book, Introduction to Pali, he read it. Okay, now I understand Pali. And then he kind of carried on there. Ajahn Brahm was very smart, very intelligent. Yeah, okay, these days it's getting a bit old, but he was really kind of before, it was really, wow, really sharp, super duper sharp. So he just read this book, and then he knew Pali, and then he could read the suttas. And then he taught everyone else Pali. And so it's kind of nice. This is how these things happen. Is Ajahn Brahm Arahant? We're talking about Pali now. Yeah? That's how I got out of that question. No, I can't. You have to decide that yourself, what Ajahn Brahm, where he is. So anyway, let's move on, because we have many more questions.
That book, by the way, you have to be pretty good to learn Pali by yourself from that.
Because it's quite technical.
It's very technical. It's meant for people with very scholastic-minded, coming from my personal humble opinion. Not a good student. When meditating, how can one stop or avoid silent commentary about the meditation itself, or what one is observing via the senses? Thank you. Don't really put effort into the stopping it. The stopping happens itself. And obviously, being the student of Ajahn Brahm, this is really what he's always teaching. Just observe it with sort of kindness. If you try to crush the mind with mind, that's never going to work. You have to just have a little bit of distance to it. Have that kind of kindness we've been talking about it here, on the commentaries. Don't give it sort of like the value it's looking for. The more you to sort of give it any kind of wind, that fire will get bigger and stronger. So we just try to. Ajahn Brahm has this kind of thing where he says, don't value your thoughts so much. You devalue them. You just sort of like, they're not so interested. You just try to have them a little bit of distance. I mean, sure, it is difficult. Difficult maybe is even the wrong word. Try to disassociate from them. Try to be kind towards them. All these things. It's a very, very common question, but Ajahn Brahmali, what?
No, absolutely. Sometimes the thoughts are there because you have some strong cravings, some desires that are driving these thoughts, and sometimes that underlying driver is so strong you can't just stop the thoughts. Sometimes you have to allow them to be. If you try to stop them, all you do is create more problems and more mess and more kind of issues. So sometimes you have to allow them to work themselves out. And that's why meditating can sometimes be an act of patience. You just have to be really patient. You have to sit, you have to wait, and after a while, maybe, if you have a good day, then these thoughts will stop. So that's one way, that idea of patience. The other very important point is to have, this is where right view comes in. The reason is, as I said before, if you have right view, you will value the right things, and then you will prioritize the right things. And if you value the future, think about, this is going to happen when I go back to Singapore. When are you going back? Sunday? Sunday? Some tomorrow. Some on Sunday. Okay, so I can understand why you maybe. So, Katina is good fun, but it's also quite different from retreat. So. But it's about valuing the wrong thing. You value that future as if that future is interesting. But that future actually isn't interesting. We think it is interesting, but actually just more of the same. And this is the idea of understanding what really matters in the world. The future that is interesting is the spiritual future, how you develop yourself mentally and spiritually. And the more you understand that, you don't really care about thinking about what's going to happen when you go back home again later on, because it's kind of irrelevant. What is interesting is happening right now, while I'm here, while I'm doing this retreat. And all of this arises out of right view. Yeah, the world is just more. It goes on and on and on, rolling on. You've been doing this for so many lifetimes already. Where has it got you? Well, it got you to Janago. That's pretty good, yeah? But but apart from that, you're still here in samsara, kind of moving on. It's not really... And so you have to... So this is why right view is so important, because it gives you this kind of this help. So work on that right view, and then come back and see if that changes your meditation in the future. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go a bit faster because still are so many questions left. So you're not going to do it at the same time as me, are you going to read? No. Okay, thank you. It's very interesting. We'll go very, very fast. Okay, some meditation systems teach that the goal of the practice is to be equanimous to all sensations in the body and the mind. Is that consistent with the Dhamma? Equanimity or upekkha is also condition, not nibbana. What is the role of upekkha as the last factor of enlightenment? So equanimity comes in many different degrees. And so there is like the lower kind of equanimity, and this is basically what Ajahn Mudita was talking about before, when you are equanimous to your sense input. Yeah, you don't attach to things. You don't get drawn in by desires and aversions to the world around you, but you kind of just are watching what is happening in your life. That is a lower kind of equanimity, and is similar to the idea of sense restraint. You're not allowing your mind to be buffeted and kind of moved by all the things in the world all the time, which is just very painful and very unpleasant. So that is already a really nice state of equanimity. And if you can get to that kind of equanimity, you're going to have this nice and even mind in life, where you feel that the world is not affecting you so much anymore. That's already really, really pleasant, just to be there, yeah, rather than always being kind of moved by everything around you. But the higher kind of equanimity is the one that arises from deep meditation practice. And that kind of equanimity is the one where you are starting to observe the world in a totally disinterested way. Not uninterested, but disinterested. Yeah, there's two different words. Disinterested means you have no kind of vested interest in what is going on. You're just observing, yeah, from not without interest, but without any vested interest in what is happening. Yeah, so you are disinterested. And so you are, that allows you to gain deep insight. And that is why, when you look at the suttas, the Noble Eightfold Path ends with the fourth jhana, which is the upekkha. Yeah, that is kind of what equanimity is. Because that is where you come to neutral feeling. There's no more interest in anything in the world, really. And it allows you to see things very, very clearly because of that disinterestedness. So upekkha is a beautiful quality because it literally means, the word is derived from the word to see. Uppa plus ikshati. Ikshati is to observe or to see, and uppa is like towards or something like that. So you are observing the world, yeah? You're seeing it in neutrally, standing back, seeing things as they actually are, not through the filters of vested interest and desire, but the way they actually are. So practice a bit of equanimity in your life. It's very, very useful anyway. You know, one of the beautiful suttas that talk about how to overcome anger and ill will, it says that sometimes it's useful to see people through equanimity. Because some people are really hard to deal with. Yeah, it's very hard. Okay, so you meet people who you think are, well, these are really dodgy people. Yeah, well, I don't know if I can have metta for them because it's so hard to have metta towards someone who does so many bad things. Okay, equanimity. Yeah, okay, equanimity. So then you can have equanimity towards these people instead. And that's true, right? Because you know that they will be the heirs of the karma. They're actually just, doing lots of bad things for them. Okay, I'll have equanimity towards them. And often equanimity is a powerful way of dealing with things. So, yes, that's a higher and a lower equanimity that you find. It's not nibbana in its own right, but it leads in that direction. It's a very helpful conditioning factor that takes you to nibbana, and that's kind of what it is about.
Okay, that was the short answer.
It was a short one. Yeah.
One of my friends countered that if jhana is uniquely Buddhist, isn't all beings in the jhanic and Brahma realms wouldn't be? It makes sense that all beings are in the jhana and Brahma realms are formally Buddhist. That's, I don't know what to say. Are they uniquely jhanas? It seems to be that the Buddha discovered jhanas. Yes, it's very, very highly likely, and then but it doesn't mean that all. It's just Buddhists can get into jhanas. It doesn't mean that everybody who lets go to a point. Buddhism is just it's not like we're religion and you belong into a religion. You can get there. Anybody who lets go to a point can get into the jhana realms. But the Brahma realms would be only Buddhist in Brahma realms. I don't understand that.
No, I think it's not. I don't think it's just Buddhists who can achieve jhana. I mean, the Buddha achieved jhana before his awakening. He wasn't a Buddhist before his awakening, right? So they are proven to you right there that it's not just for Buddhists.
But the Brahma realms, I don't know that. How do you get to the Brahma realms? Isn't it Metta, exactly.
There are many stories in the sutras about people who were reborn in the Brahma loka after, meditating on the Brahma viharas and that thing. So I don't think that is the case. I think that So
But from at the sutras, it does appear that at the time of the Buddha, nobody else, even the Buddhist teachers, didn't have the jhanas. So I mean, we don't really know, but it's not much there.
Yeah, but the thing is also, what does discovered jhana mean? It's contextual. It is not obvious what it means. I know Ajahn Brahm sometimes says it means that there wasn't any jhana around. Maybe that is true, but it could also mean that you discover jhana in the sense that you discover its importance on the path, how it actually enables enlightenment.
That's a good point.
So there's different ways of understanding that.
Anybody who lets go enough gets into deep meditations, but you're right. They don't realize that it's part of the Eightfold Path. That is just so important.
So it's actually wrong samadhi because of that. So in that sense, it's not really jhana, the Buddhist jhana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't that mean Buddha's teachers didn't get jhana?
Yeah, that is one of those kind of very controversial things. Yeah, did they have jhanas? Did they not, or whatever? And it looks like they had immaterial attainments if you read the sutras as they are. But there's also some good arguments to be had that it actually didn't achieve jhana as well. So the argument can be taken both ways. So I think it's one of those imponderables. You never find an answer to it. But they're both possible solutions. Yeah, two interpretations.
Quick.
Okay, quick. Thank you. Thanks for reminding us. Well, this is the same handwriting. Okay, so I'm going to put that handwriting to one side because otherwise we're going to... All right, dear Ajahn Brahmalis, this is for me. I can sit without too much bodily discomfort. Sometimes I go into sloth and torpor. Mostly times joy can't arise. Seek your kind advice. Thank you. Yes, this is... it is not easy for joy to arise. A lot of people find that is kind of hard. Sometimes you can become peaceful. And sometimes if that peace goes on for a long time but the joy does not arise, it can move into tiredness and lethargy. It is quite common. And so not very surprising at all. And so what you have to do is you have to kind of learn to tap into those areas of the Dhamma where the Buddha talks about how to give rise to joy. The idea of having a sense of gratitude, maybe. You are here, having gratitude for being here, for being part of this beautiful Buddhist community that you have, both in the BF and here in Perth. We just had the Pavarana ceremony in the monastery. Pavarana ceremony is what we do at the end of the rains, where we invite each other for admonishment. And at that ceremony there was 26 bhikkhus and 15 bhikkhunis. Isn't that amazing? It's kind of a really, really large Buddhist community. And then you see all the people coming to the monastery all the time. And then you see all the BF members coming here. And then you kind of go to BF. And it's kind of a large Buddhist community and very, very powerful. And you're part of that. Isn't that kind of amazing? And so you get a sense of gratitude for what is here, for these teachings that are available. This is one way of giving rise to joy. Another one is to do some more metta meditation. Keep it really, really simple. Like when Ajahn Mudito was saying, have metta for yourself, or have metta for all beings, whatever it is. And keep that mantra going until you get some positive feelings. Then you maybe go to the breath. You can put these meditations together. Don't do things randomly. Do things in a fairly systematic fashion. Keep that metta going until something happens, and then you can move on to the breath if you want. So do things that give rise to this. Make sure that if you have troubles giving rise to joy, do things in your ordinary life that do give rise to joy in the long run. Be a generous person. Be generous in everything you do. Be generous in your kind speech. Be generous in your whatever material things, of course. Be generous in how you treat others. Be generous with your time. Be generous in a bit of charity work if you can. Always seek to be generous and kind to others. And as you do that, you're building up the foundations for joy in the future. And when you come back here to Jhana Grove next time, you know that you are a good person. You will feel, and that sense of knowing inside that you have done good things will just come back to you when you sit down peacefully. Understand that that is the cause, and this is one of the reasons why that sila, why that kindness in ordinary life is so incredibly important, because that will allow the joy to come when you sit down in a meditation practice. So all of these things together, will allow this to happen. Oh, you have taken over. Okay.
I looked over the questions and they're way too technical. Well, like, what's wrong with you people? Aren't you enjoying your meditation or something? Asking about dependent origination and satipatthanas and all that, so you get the easy ones. I take the difficult ones. Okay. Dear Ajahn, on the subject of rebirth, is there any sutta that state that the last breath determines the next rebirth? No, it's not. And is there any suttas? No. But it's actually, and it's usually not the last breath determines the next rebirth. What's usually people say that it's the last mind moment, the last thought determines the next rebirth. Would a person in the process of dying not know where his next or her next rebirth is going to take? Taking the last breath, where the next rebirth will be. What about the good done dying this during his lifetime? That should also determine the next rebirth. It's sort of two things. So you have to think about it this way. It's like a big ship, and the kamma is really the big things what matters in life. So whatever the good you have accumulated, or bad, or unwholesome, we don't, you're not bad people, right? At least most of you. So maybe some of you. It's like you have to think about it, a big ship. It's moving to one direction. The Buddha gave a simile. It's like a tree when the tree is leaning towards east, and then the men come and they chop it down the tree from the root. Is it going to be all of a sudden going to fall towards west when it was leaning towards the east, or south, or north? No, it's always going to fall towards which way it's going to lean. So more you put lean into that tree, and that's where it's always going to fall to. And the same way, this is not from the sutras of it. The simile of the boat, or the something like a big oil tanker in a strait there in front of the Singapore. It's moving one direction. It's not all of a sudden going to go to the left. It takes a long time, the movement. So that's that same way with your kamma. Is whatever the kamma is, like this big movement is going towards that direction. But is the last mind moment, is that going to be determined your next? What happens is that the kamma before that, all those things, now the practice, now your life coming to an end, what are you thinking? I was a good person. I did many things. I was generous. I helped others. I have kind speech. All of that kamma is now coming. It's affecting those. There's not really like one last mind moment. It's not like you're alive and then you're dead. It doesn't work like that. You're slowly, gradually going into that, into that death process. And there's not like one moment where you're alive and then the next moment you're dead. It doesn't work that way either. But all of that kamma from this life it sort of determines those moments of thinking when you are dying, when you start moving into the in that process. It's a process. Death is a process. So yes, that determines as well where you're going to go. But that mind moment was conditioned by the previous karmas. But so think about the karma as the big thing, but last mind moment, if there's such a thing, it also determines which way you're going. But it doesn't mean all of a sudden. But something from the past can come up. It was something you feel remorseful, and that can take you to a place. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to take too much longer.
No, please.
What also can happens with the karma, it seems to be that there is like an intermediate state. So it needs to be that the karma sort of needs to be clarified, so to speak.
How does that fit with the last mind moment?
I don't know how. It's sort of like the last mind moment. I don't know what I'm saying. It's still it's a continuum. So there is no really like a last mind moment. There is no such a thing as last mind moment. Death is a process. So sort of like pulling myself into this kind of weird knot. Yeah. But it seems to be that there needs to be like a moment before the rebirth process really starts that your karma is sort of like you clarify. It's almost like we have these stories about like a yamaka, the god of death comes to you, and what it does. It comes to and brings a mirror in front of you. And you look at the mirror and says, the yamaka says, "What have you done? Weren't you mindful all this time? Didn't you realize you're going to die?" And you're like, "No, I forgot." Didn't you realize you're a good person? That like all these things are going to follow you? And like, well, I wasn't mindful. I wasn't having restraint of senses. I didn't have my sila. I wasn't developing enough kindness. And then from that, you sort of judge yourself. And then that it's sort of like a simile of that kind of like where the karma takes sort of like finds its way, and then from that it determines which way you're going. But it's your own mind. It's your how you look at yourself and the karma.
Yeah.
Good. You're not going to say something.
No, I was actually. I was going to just very, very briefly.
Yeah.
I agree with
most of the things.
Everything you say was very, very nice, very beautiful, well said. But the only thing I would add was that the whole idea of last mind moment. Yeah. The reason why we talk about that is because of Abhidhamma.
It comes from Abhidhamma.
It's an Abhidhamma thing, and this is one of the reasons I'm not all that keen on Abhidhamma, because sometimes it leads you astray. Because the reality it's just a Theravada thing, but I think in reality the Buddha did actually teach that there is no such thing and that there is an intermediate stage. And so this is kind of one of the downsides of Abhidhamma. Sometimes it gets you into these strange ideas that the last mind moment is very important, when actually it's probably not even the right view of things.
And again, it's amongst the Sri Lankan people, it's a very common question for us. Very common question. So we get it all the time. So think about your karma like a big shape, or like a tree leaning into one direction. It cannot be that all of a sudden it just jumps the other direction, right? So again, it's Abhidhammic. It's this later commentarial idea that there's mind moments. Mind moments are like doesn't work like that. Okay, now you get the easy questions.
I get the easy questions. Okay, thank you. Okay, so dear Ajahn Brahm, can you please explain how to practice the stanza in Majjhima Nikaya 118? Mindfulness of breathing goes, I will breathe in observing impermanence. This, I will breathe out observing impermanence. I will breathe in observing fading away, cessation, letting go. How do you practice this? So the idea here is that every time you do your meditation, you want to contemplate it at the end of the meditation. I always recommend that to people, to stop when you have finished, at least spend a minute or two to contemplate what happened during the meditation. You learn about the process by doing that. And you should ask yourself, how do I feel at the end? And if you feel more peaceful, more happy, more at ease, whatever it is, any positive feeling, you should try to understand why it is the case that you got there. What did I actually do this time? Oh, I let go. What did that mean? Well, it just meant I was just natural. That's all it meant. Letting go is kind of the most natural thing in the world. There's nothing kind of fancy, but it just meant you didn't hold on. That's all it means, really. Well, that's what letting go means. It's really easy, isn't it? And next time you can't do it, even though it's so easy. So you learn from that what these things actually mean. You learn about the kind of perceptions that you use in a meditation to make the process work. How do I think about the meditation practice? How do I look upon my fellow people here at the retreat? How do I think about the world? And you start to understand how you perceive things actually enables your meditation. So this is kind of the thinking about this thing, and afterwards. And the more deeply you think about this, the more you get into this kind of contemplation. This is the deeper way of thinking exactly like I'm talking about now, in a deeper sense. So you come to the end of your meditation, and anicca means that you have seen how things have been changing during your meditation. You've seen how, things are, well, first of all, I was feeling pain in my legs, then it stopped. I didn't have pain in my legs anymore. What's going on here? Oh, because I became peaceful or whatever, and it disappeared. So that is kind of pain, and it returned again, Pain is anicca. It is not a permanent thing. It is not something that determines you as a human being or whatever. And then you see fading away. Fading away means that the change has a certain direction to it. Change is not random. Change happens according to a certain sequence, a certain direction. And so the pain fades away. It becomes weaker and weaker and weaker until it's completely gone, and it's replaced by happiness or joy instead, or pleasure instead. There's a certain fading away, and then the cessation, the pain is completely gone. And all the phenomena in your body and mind have that kind of process to them. Where they are impermanent, they fade away and they cease. And the more things cease, the more peaceful you are. Your thinking fades away and ceases. Your body fades away and ceases. The pain fades away and ceases. The perception of the world around you, as the senses withdraw within, fades away and ceases. You see the process. What you're seeing is the 5 khandhas ceasing, and fading away gradually, because that's our experience, is the 5 khandhas like that. And so this is what it means. So by getting used to the idea at the end of the meditation to contemplate your meditation, you're getting into the habit of the Anapanasati Sutta, learning how to do this kind of process afterwards. So always spend a minute or two at the end. Don't get up straight away. Try to reflect. What happened? Why didn't it work? Why did it work? Why was it flat? What is going on here? And slowly, it takes a long time. Initially, you don't even know how to reflect properly. You think, how am I supposed to reflect? But after a while, you start to get the hang of it. And you start to get used to how to do this. So that is the idea there.
So it's not, while you're breathing, you don't look at the impermanence there. There's not like there's not like a mantra of going, like you would think, like you see that kind of sentence. It's like observing impermanence.
You can do it while you're breathing, but the idea is to get as peaceful as you possibly can before you do it, because then you have more information to work with. Deeper information.
But it's now you talked about more like, meditators don't get involved, and then afterwards you contemplate on it. But when the mind starts coming down, do you start seeing the impermanence happening there?
You do, but you don't focus on it, because if you focus on it, you lose your stillness. Lose the stillness.
So it's interesting that there's like those kind of sentences are very complicated in this way. It takes really a lot of understanding to. If you just read it, it's like it really looks like you're breathing in impermanence and you're breathing out impermanence.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying. Dear Ajahn, since arriving in Janagrove, I've been having dreams. Oh, well, that's good. Quite vivid at times, happening every night. I don't usually dream or remember any after. Is it related to meditation practice? That's it. Is it related to meditation practice? It is most likely. quite often people say that you come to a retreat center, you come to monastery, and you live this kind of more mindfully, and you're just sort of observing your mind, and then that sort of spills into the dream world. And but it will also, I would say, that it will fade away. We don't remember our dreams, at least I think most of us monks, any better than any other people. And then even if we meditate more, but it's just in the beginning, I think there's just more excitement and all that. But I do remember coming to monastery and had really, really vivid dreams, but not any reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one question here about the nuns' monastery in Sri Lanka. I will be very happy to talk about that. So I'll do that last. And before that. There's one person who has given many questions, so I'll answer a couple of them because I think they may take too much time, but it's not because I am against these kind of questions, but it's more like simply because it's getting a little bit late. So let's have a look. So I asked the Buddhist elder, what is Nicca, Sukhang, Atta, Subha? And she said, that's the nature of Nibbana. I said, that's the 4 vipalasas. But she said, that's a conditioned phenomenon, but not the nature of Nibbana. Is she correct? There's different kinds of Nicca, right? I mean, you have to kind of be careful here because it's very easy to get these things confused. And so the idea is that usually when we talk about anicca and nicca, sukha and dukkha, this is impermanence and impermanence, happiness and suffering, what we're talking about are the phenomena of the world. The phenomena of the world are what are defined in this way. Nibbana is outside of that. We don't think about Nibbana as permanent or impermanent because it's beyond all conditions. You can't really classify it in that way here. So the Buddha does say that Nibbana is the highest happiness, but that is not because you actually experience happiness. It is for other reasons that it is the highest happiness. It is the highest happiness because of the ending of all suffering, for example. There may not be an experience of happiness there. And the same thing with permanent or impermanent. Usually when we think of things as permanent, we think of something like a soul, right? Or maybe universal consciousness or something like that. But that is not what this is about. It's permanent in the sense that once you have given up certain defilements, they don't come back. Once you have given up suffering, it doesn't return. In that sense, it is permanent. But it's not a state that is permanent. And it certainly is not a self, because that is kind of the whole point of the Dhamma. There is no self. If it was a self, then we would have a real problem. That is kind of contradicted by the Buddha directly in the suttas. And so... so that is my brief answer to that one. So let's have a look at this one here. Is anupassati, or observation in the satipatthana refrain, the same as sati, mindfulness? Is the idea of vipassana jhana or satipatthana vipassana valid, since vipassi, or clear seeing, is related to anupassati? Vipassana jhana is a very strange word. And one of the things you have to realize is that vipassana jhana is a word that is found in the sub-commentaries of the Pali, not suttas, but the Pali sub-commentaries. It's found about 20 times. I once did a search for this word, vipassana jhana, and I found it's found about 20 times in like the sub-commentaries. That means it is an incredibly obscure word. And why anyone would use such an incredibly obscure word to actually define the meditation practice, I don't understand. By contrast, jhana, the word jhana, occurs over 1,000 times in the 4 Nikayas. The 4 Nikayas is like the root, basic ideas, the word of the Buddha, right? Only in the 4 Nikayas, which is only a fraction of the Pali literature, it occurs 1,000 times. Vipassana jhana occurs 0 times in the 4 Nikayas, and it only occurs in the sub-commentaries 20 times. So it's incredibly obscure. So why anyone would even use this kind of terminology is really beyond me. You're moving away, basically, from the word of the Buddha when you use this kind of terminology. And it's a very confusing terminology. Right? Because it kind of gives the idea that you can be in jhana and you can contemplate at the same time. This is kind of the feeling it gives. And so it is strange. Maybe there is a way of reconciling these things. You can always find ways of reconciling them if you want to, depending what you mean by these terms. Sometimes you have to redefine your terms and all this kind of stuff, and suddenly it starts to make sense because of that. But basically, the Buddha didn't use this terminology, and so I wouldn't use it either. So is that observation basically the same as sati? It is not exactly the same, because sati just means you are aware. This means sati directed in a certain way here. Yeah, so you're observing a certain things. You're observing 4 areas: body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, or principles, or whatever. And so there's a particular kind of observation. Sati is much broader than that. Sati can be had for almost anything in the world. So it's actually broader. It's not exactly the same. All right. So this is more about cessation, 5 aggregates, and nibbana. I'm going to pass on that one because I've spoken about that a little bit already. And then we have something briefly about dependent arising. When the process of dependent arising is manipulated for cessation, independent cessation, as the Buddha exclaimed that the house is demolished, no more house builder, what is left? What happens to the 5 aggregates when dependent arising ceases? So the 5 aggregates are gone, right? That's the whole point, because the 5 aggregates are dukkha. Panchupadana khandha dukkha, said the Buddha, sankitena, in brief. So that means the end of dukkha. That's what it means. End of khandhas, end of dukkha, highest happiness. Yay, highest happiness. That's what the arahants go around saying. Yay, 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 highest happiness. You know the story of the arahants? This famous arahant called what's his name again now? Baddika? But no. Anyway, there's one famous arahant. He was one of the ones who went forward from the Sakyan clan. And he was kind of sitting in the forest, and he was sitting under the root of a tree, and he was saying, oh, what happiness, oh, what happiness, aho sukhang, very happy sitting at the root of a tree. And then these other monks will walk by, and they hear this monk sitting in the forest saying, aho sukhang, aho sukhang, saying, well, he's going a bit funny, sitting at the root of a tree, saying kind of weird stuff to himself. And they went to the Buddha and said, oh, this monk, I can't remember, I forgot his name. Badya? Not Badya. Is it Badya? Maybe it is Badya, whatever. And so they went to the Buddha and said, oh, Badya sitting at the root of a tree, saying, aho sukhang, maybe you should have a chat with him. And so the Buddha says to a certain man, please go and get Badya. And then he says to Badya, well, is it true that you're sitting at the root of a tree saying, aho sukhang, aho sukhang? He said, yes. Well, why are you doing that? And then he says, well, before, when I was a layperson, I was like the king. I was a royal family. I was a prince. I was going to take over the whole country. And it was so much trouble to be a prince. Yeah, so many things to sort out, so many palaces to look after, so many women in the harem, so much stuff to look after. Yeah, incredible suffering. Yeah, but now I can sit at the root of a tree and just enjoy the bliss of freedom. Aho sukhang, aho sukhang. Yeah, that is Badya sitting at the root of a tree, just saying aho sukhang. Yeah, so that's what the arahants do. Yeah, so if you see a monk sitting in the forest at monastery, yeah, saying aho sukhang, it's a good sign. Yeah, it's not a bad sign. Yeah. We'll see what happens. So before I call it today, I want to come back to the question about what did I do with that question? This is about the nuns' monastery. Here it is, yeah. So, and I'm very happy to give you an update on that project, because it's a very inspiring project. And things have been going, to be honest, really well. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of support from people around the world. Some of you from Singapore have also contributed, which is wonderful to see. And a lot of people have contributed. And so we have already built up a fairly large amount of money. That is now enough to kind of start the project. And so the bhikkhuni who was in charge of this, her name is Venerable Sela. She's been staying at Dhammasara for the Rains Retreat. Do any of you know Venerable Sela? Have you met her by any chance? No? She is originally of Sri Lankan background, but she's also lived in Australia. So she's kind of one of these people of mixed. Yeah, she doesn't know whether she's Australian or Sri Lankan anymore, I think. She's kind of looks like me. I don't know what I am. It's kind of nice. It's nice not to have any too strong identity. So she's kind of one of these things. She straddles Australia and Sri Lanka. And that is a beautiful background for being able to run a monastery like this. She has a good professional background. She's obviously very intelligent, very skilled in many ways. And so she is like the leader of this project. And now she's going back to Sri Lanka after spending the rains at Dhammasara. One of the first things she's going to do is to go out and look at a large number of properties that they have found, which are suitable for this kind of project. And so it is happening now, basically, that they're looking for a property. And I think there's a good chance they will have within 4 to 6 months, they will already have a property. And then, because we already have a significant amount of donations, they can start planning the monastery. Yeah, they can start building and starting planning and starting doing everything. So it is going gangbusters, this monastery. It's basically going really, really well. And I think there's a good chance that there will be it's not really a branch monastery of Bodhinyana monastery, but it will be affiliated to Bodhinyana and Dhammasara, and also the BF in a sense, right? Because we are all kind of a group working together in Sri Lanka. And what a wonderful thing to have an affiliated monastery in a Buddhist country. Yeah, it's really nice to be able to go to Sri Lanka. This monastery is likely to be quite high above sea level, about 1,000 meters above sea level, which means the temperature is just perfect. You don't want to have Singaporean temperatures in the monastery, too hot to kind of meditate. But 1,000 meters above sea level, it's beautiful temperature, about 25 degrees all year round. Is that too cold for the Singaporeans? Can do it? Nice, okay, so 25 is nice, right? So maybe sometimes even a little bit less. So perfect temperature in the mountains. You can go and enjoy the Sri Lankan culture. Very hospitable culture. Yeah, people are very Buddhist. They understand what the Dhamma is about. I don't know if you've been to Sri Lanka, but it's a very nice, very, very beautiful place to visit. Very green, very lush, of course. Well, you know that from Singapore already. And so this will be an opportunity to then have an exchange, Nuns in Australia can go there to train. Nuns from Sri Lanka come here to train. Maybe some of you, if you want to become nuns or bhikkhunis, you have a chance to go to this monastery in Sri Lanka and kind of appreciate that. And so it expands the horizon for bhikkhunis. And when we expand the horizon and we give the bhikkhunis really good places to train, we're going to get some really good results. We're going to get some very inspiring female Buddhist renunciants. And that is going to be a great benefit for the whole world. We need more inspiring females as well. And there aren't enough inspiring teachers in general, so more inspiring teachers, but especially female ones, is going to be very, very, very suitable, very helpful for the whole world. And that is what is going to come out of this kind of project, because it gives the foundation, gives the basic infrastructure to make this possible. And so the reason why you want to tie it up with the Buddhist Society here is because we can provide good teachings in the Vinaya, good teachings in the suttas, and so there will be common teachings, there will be exchange, and there will be all kinds of things going on. So thank you so much, everyone, for your kind support. I really appreciated seeing that support coming through. And if you have an opportunity, please carry on. We still need some more funds. We're having a target of raising $1 million. We are well on the way to get there, but not quite there yet. So far, we have raised about $600,000, and there are some more pledges also coming in, but we need a little bit more to get to the target. So if you have the opportunity to support, great. And if you just want to give moral support, that's also very nice. So that is what we are doing over there. Yeah, Badya, yeah. Okay, everyone, so carry on enjoying your last few hours of retreat. Tomorrow morning you will have Venerable Sunyo come here. He's another very nice young monk of our monastery. And on tomorrow afternoon, we will all be coming over. The monks will come over here. We'll be starting setting up for the Katina ceremony. So if you want to help a little bit with that, that's also wonderful. And then on Sunday, we have the Katina. So very nice to see you all again. Look after yourself. And we'll, hopefully one of these days, we'll see you back again in Singapore. So there we are. Sadhu. Let's just finish off by doing the Arahang Samma Sambuddha together here. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Svakatu Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namah